If 2020 was a movie, it would probably be a documentary titled What If X Came True? And in this video, we're going to talk about 5 movies that came true this year, starting with number 1, Armageddon. Directed by Michael Bay, starring Bruce Willis and Ben Affleck, the movie had NASA launching a couple of space shuttles, landing on an asteroid, and blowing it up with a nuke. Although it didn't have a crew riding on a nuclear warhead, literally, in October this year, NASA's spacecraft successfully touched down on an asteroid and collected samples for the first time in US history. This near-Earth asteroid called Bennu travels at a speed of over 60,000 miles per hour and is considered a potential threat as there's a small chance it can hit Earth in the next century. By returning and analyzing the materials collected, scientists can then learn more about the formation of the asteroid and, more importantly, understand its physical and chemical properties to potentially develop an impact avoidance mission. Number 2. Spider-Man 2. Not the Amazing Spider-Man, but the one where Tobey fought against Doctor Octopus. Now what came true weren't the robotics arms, but rather the fusion reactor, also known as the artificial sun, that is used to generate energy. Although it is a bit exaggerated to have the little sun in the movie, it is indeed possible to achieve nuclear fusion on Earth inside a confinement with suitable pressure and temperature. In fact, in July this year, the world's largest fusion reactor in France finally began its assembly, whereas China even switched on its artificial sun for the first time earlier this month. By creating hot plasma up to 150 million degrees Celsius, atomic nuclei are combined into heavier ones, releasing massive energy in the process. This reaction is opposite to nuclear fission that separates heavier nuclei. Although it is very difficult to harness the power of fusion, if made possible, we can create virtually infinite amounts of energy with much less radioactive waste compared to what we have in the nuclear power plants now. Number 3. Skyscraper. As much as it sounds like some glamorous news about another record-breaking skyscraper, what happened in May this year was that a 49-story high-rise called the Abbco Tower was burning in flames from top to bottom in the United Arab Emirates. From the footage taken by the locals, the situation was no better than in the movie. This in fact isn't the first time skyscrapers were burned to the ground in the UAE, with another great fire just happening 3 years ago at another building called the Torch Tower. Although fire breaks out all the time, everywhere, skyscraper fires in the UAE are more frequent and severe because they have a lot of tall buildings covered with aluminium cladding, a material that covers the skyscrapers and gives them the modern look. Although such cladding is cheap and easy to install, it is now banned on newer buildings because it turns out to be the reason behind the fires that spread rapidly from floor to floor. Speaking of fires, here comes one of the highlights of the year. Number 4. Only the Brave. Starring Josh Brolin, the film told the real story behind the wildfires of Arizona in June 2013. Although fires occur basically every year, in June this year, the fires in Arizona were extremely large and intense, according to climate scientists, and were burning in places that hadn't burned in a long time. They even used the fires in Arizona as a sign to predict what would happen in California, which also turned out to be a disaster. Although the Australian bushfires were already contained back in May, as of today, which is Christmas, wildfires are still ongoing in western United States. This may have to do with 2020 being probably the hottest year on record. But anyway, if you want to know more about the cause behind the rapid spread of wildfires, feel free to check out my other video right here. Number 5. Time for the big boss, Contagion. Now the reason I put this at the end of the list isn't only because I don't want to state the obvious, but rather there's just too many similarities between real life and the movie that actually scare me. Not only did COVID-19 and the MEV1 in the movie originate from the same country and the same animal, they were both transmitted by respiratory droplets and fomites as well. Although the symptoms were more severe and the mortality rate was much higher in the movie, the writers somehow anticipated 2020 down to the smallest details. Closing schools, shutting borders, spreading rumors, or even pharmaceutical stocks shooting through the roof. While a lot of people became interested in the movie again this year, that is what the writer Scott Burns told the media in March. Every scientist who I spoke to when I worked on the movie said that exact same thing to me. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And it seems that the when is now. Good luck and stay safe. I'll see you guys in 2021.